The billion-dollar humiliation nobody saw.
Let me tell you about the most savage geopolitical own of 2025. And no, it didn't come from China, it didn't come from Russia. It came from the one country everyone assumed would always roll over for America. Canada. Yes, Canada. The country Americans joke about, the polite neighbor, the nation that supposedly needs US protection. That Canada just executed the most brilliant middle finger in modern diplomatic history, and Trump walked right into it like an absolute amateur. While Trump was busy tweeting threats about making Canada the 51st state, Mark Carney was quietly preparing to lock the United States out of a $900 billion trade corridor. And here's the part that's going to make you lose your mind. Trump's own aggression gave Canada the perfect excuse to do it. This isn't analysis, this is watching a masterclass in how to destroy your opponent using their own weapons. The threat that backfired spectacularly. Picture this: early 2025, Trump decides Canada needs to be disciplined. Tariffs everywhere, public humiliation, calling them a potential 51st state like it's some kind of joke. The strategy was simple: squeeze Canada until they beg for mercy. Except Mark Carney looked at Trump's threats and thought, you want to weaponize trade? Fine, we'll just build our own trade route, one you can't control, one that's worth more than your threats, and we'll use your aggression as justification. This is 4D chess while Trump is playing checkers. Carney announced $7 billion for Arctic icebreakers, not for studies, not for future planning, for actual ships that will patrol waters the US has been using as their personal highway for 70 years without asking permission. And then he said this, and I want you to read this slowly because it's brutal. The United States can keep insisting these are international waters, but when our icebreakers are patrolling them, when our ports are servicing the ships, when our regulations are keeping the Arctic safe, sovereignty isn't what you claim on paper, it's what you can actually control. That's not diplomacy, that's a declaration of war, economic war, and Canada is winning. Why this is absolutely insane? Here's what most people don't understand about the Northwest Passage. This isn't just another shipping route. This is the shipping route that rewrites global trade. Right now, ships from Asia to Europe go through the Suez Canal or around Africa. Ships from Asia to New York go through Panama. These routes are long, expensive, and getting more congested every year. The Northwest Passage cuts through the Canadian Arctic and saves 7,000 kilometers. That's not a typo, 7,000 kilometers. Days of travel time eliminated, millions in fuel costs saved per voyage. Climate change is melting the ice. By 2035, experts say it could be ice-free most summers. By mid-century, potentially year-round with icebreaker support. Current projections, by 2050, this route could handle 2 to 5% of global shipping traffic. Only 2 to 5%, you might think? Let me do the math for you. Global maritime trade is $20 trillion annually. 5% of that is $1 trillion flowing through Canadian waters every single year. But wait, it gets worse for America. Underneath the Arctic ice sits a fortune in critical minerals, rare earth elements, lithium, copper, nickel, everything needed for electric vehicles, batteries, defense systems, renewable energy tech. For decades, these resources were worthless because there was no way to get them to market. Now, with Arctic ports and shipping infrastructure, Canada becomes a critical mineral superpower overnight. That's the $900 billion figure, and the US just got locked out.
Here's the part that's going to make Canadians cheer and Americans rage. For 70 years, the United States has been sailing through the Northwest Passage like they own it. American submarines, American icebreakers, American naval vessels, all without asking Canada's permission, ever. Canada would protest, "Those are our waters." America's response, "Nope, international waters. We don't need your permission. Deal with it." 1969, American oil tanker Manhattan sails straight through without asking. Canada sends icebreakers to escort it, desperately trying to assert authority. America ignores them. 1985, U.S. icebreaker Polar Sea does it again. No permission, no apology. Canada protests. Washington basically says, "What are you going to do about it?" Answer: nothing, because Canada couldn't enforce it. No ports, no icebreakers, no military infrastructure. Canada claimed sovereignty on paper, while everyone else treated it like a free-for-all. Russia built 50 icebreakers. China started calling itself a near-Arctic state, despite being nowhere near the Arctic. And Canada? Canada could only watch and file diplomatic complaints that everyone ignored, until Trump gave them the motivation to finally do something about it. The $7 billion middle finger. When Carney announced that $7 billion investment, Pentagon strategists should have immediately recognized what was happening. This wasn't infrastructure spending. This was Canada saying, the era of American dominance just ended, and you did this to yourselves. 2 heavy polar-class icebreakers capable of breaking through 3 meters of ice in temperatures down to -50 degrees Celsius, operating year-round, not just summer patrols, year-round presence. Deep water ports at Churchill and strategic locations across the Arctic, all-weather roads connecting mining sites, military facilities for permanent operations, surveillance systems and radar installations monitoring every vessel. Timeline: first icebreaker by 2030, second by 2032, port upgrades starting immediately, critical mineral infrastructure operational within 5 years. This is happening right now while America watches helplessly. Why this is a strategic nightmare for the U.S. Here's where it gets absolutely devastating. Once Canada has icebreakers patrolling those waters 24/7, they can require ships to check in with Canadian authorities, accept Canadian pilots, follow Canadian environmental regulations, pay fees for navigation services, submit to inspections. Ships will comply because they'll need Canadian ports for refueling, repairs, and supplies in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. America can keep saying international waters until they're blue in the face, but if Canada controls the infrastructure, Canada makes the rules. De facto control beats legal arguments every single time. But here's the nuclear option that should terrify Washington. If America keeps insisting these are international waters, then China and Russia can claim the same rights. Think about that. Chinese vessels transiting Arctic waters right next to North America. Russian submarines operating freely in what should be protected zones, all using the exact same legal argument America uses. The entire NORAD defense perimeter collapses. North American security gets shredded, all because Trump couldn't stop himself from threatening Canada. Some Pentagon officials are quietly admitting they might need to support Canadian sovereignty to keep China and Russia out, but that requires admitting America was wrong for 70 years. Trump will never admit that, and every day he doesn't, Canada builds more infrastructure that makes his position more irrelevant. The alliance crisis everyone's ignoring. Here's the absolutely insane part. Canada and the U.S. are NATO allies. They share continental defense. They cooperate on virtually every security issue. But on the Northwest Passage, they're on opposite sides. NATO can't take an official position because that would force the alliance to choose between America and a legal argument that most European countries actually support. The EU historically sides with Canada on this. So you have NATO allies in an active sovereignty dispute, while they're supposed to be presenting a united front against Russia and China in the Arctic. This is Trump's art of the deal in action, turning your closest ally into an adversary. Canadian officials are now strengthening partnerships with Finland and Sweden, who just joined NATO and have serious Arctic capabilities, while making it crystal clear Arctic sovereignty is non-negotiable. And the strategic ambiguity? It actually helps Canada. As long as NATO doesn't officially choose sides, Canada can keep building infrastructure without triggering a full alliance crisis.
The ultimate irony, the part that should make every American furious. Trump's pressure campaign might benefit China and Russia more than anyone. Russia has 50 icebreakers and plans to move 100 million tons of cargo through Arctic routes by 2030. China is investing billions in Arctic research and icebreaker technology. For years, Canada and the US presented a united front against Russian and Chinese Arctic expansion. Trump shattered that unity. Now, Carney is diversifying trade partnerships to reduce dependence on American markets. And guess what's suddenly on the table? Chinese investment in Canadian Arctic projects. Canada hasn't partnered with Russia, too provocative given Ukraine. But China? That's now a possibility that didn't exist before. And here's the killer. If the US keeps claiming international waters, Beijing can transit Canadian Arctic waters anytime, using America's own legal argument. Canada can't stop Chinese vessels if they can't stop American ones. Trump thought he was pressuring Canada. Instead, he pushed them straight toward the partnerships America desperately wanted to prevent. This is a strategic blunder so catastrophic it will be studied in military academies for decades. The future that's already being built. By the early 2030s, that's less than 10 years, Canada will have functioning deep-water ports handling major commercial traffic, permanent icebreaker presence ensuring year-round navigation, military infrastructure monitoring every vessel in Arctic waters, the physical capability to regulate traffic regardless of what other nations claim. The economic benefits for Canada are staggering. Critical minerals reaching global markets efficiently. Billions in navigation fees from shipping companies. Northern communities gaining employment and infrastructure. Canada as a major Arctic power instead of a bystander. And America? America ends up on the outside of a $900 billion trade route, unable to dictate terms, watching Canada build infrastructure that makes American legal arguments a joke. The empty chair. Trump expected Canada to fold. He assumed economic threats would force submission, that size meant absolute power, that allies had no choice but to obey. Instead, he triggered the largest Canadian Arctic investment in history. The empty chair at Trump's negotiating table isn't there because Canada is weak. It's there because Canada is too busy building an Arctic empire that doesn't need American permission. Every icebreaker launched, every port upgraded, every military facility constructed. Each one makes American influence more irrelevant. Trump thought he was demonstrating strength. He accidentally taught the world how to beat America. The question that should haunt Washington: how does the most powerful military in history get outmaneuvered by Canada? Not through force, not through alliances, but through infrastructure and patience. While Trump was threatening tariffs, Carney was building icebreakers. While Trump was tweeting insults, Canada was constructing ports. While Trump was demanding submission, Canada was securing a $900 billion future. The bill for Trump's ego? $900 billion, payable to Canada in a trade route he can't control and a strategic position he can't recover. The Arctic is opening, the ice is melting, the passage is clearing, and Canada just won the game before America realized they were playing.